when I first started pumpfoiling in Italy, everything was super hard. But one thing, finding a good dock where to start from. Until I moved to Cyprus. And in 40 kilometers of coast, I couldn't find a single dock to start from. So I had to buy this kind of ladder. It was kind of short, it was dangerous. It was pretty hard to start on it, very hard to set up. And of course, I could only start myself from it. And now I came up with a new solution. It's a little bit more professional, a little bit safer, and it's just amazing. As you can see, it's roughly 1 meter 80, because I'm quite short. And as you could see, it's quite stable. You have a nice overhang to Dockstart, and then a Dropstart platform from on the top for those who are not that flexible. Then you might wonder, yes, but it's gonna move on sand with the waves. Not really, because we created these little feet, I like to call them, which just make sure that the platform grips on sand and stays there. And in case you're wondering how much time it took me to create this dock, it took us roughly one day, really, one afternoon and one morning. And I could only create it with the help of Windsurf City here in Cyprus, which you can see there in the background. So just in case you're into wing foiling or now into pump foiling and you wanna make some nice holidays in the heat, as you can see, it's April and I'm already without the wetsuit. You can just come over, wing foil, e-foil, windsurf, what else? SUP and pump foiling. So Windsurf City Cyprus in Larnaca, open from now until September, October. See you here. Just in terms of dimensions, the platform is 3 meters long, and in case you want to recreate it, everything's going to be in the description, but these aluminum poles are 3 meters, and then the section is 40 by 80, and this is silver aluminum, so it's kind of anodized, so it doesn't get rusty that easily. And of course, bolts, nuts, and washers are stainless steel, so again, they don't get rusty. And the wood, like I said at the beginning, is marine wood. To put the platform in the water, I'm gonna put it back down, and I'm gonna just float it into position, so it's quite easy to set up. And in case you're wondering, well, it takes a lot of space. Not really, because it's just by unscrewing 4 nuts, 1, 2, 3, and 4, so the 4 struts, you're gonna be able to fold it, and it's gonna be, yes, 3 meter and 1 meter 20 wide, because the platform is 1 meter 20 wide, but it's gonna be really 1 meter high, 1 meter tall, because the legs are gonna be kind of folded into each other. This one, which is higher for the Dropstart platform, is 2 meter and 35, and the section is 40 by 40. The struts are 1 meter-ish each, doesn't really matter that much, and the section is 40 by 20. I kept an angle of less than 30 degrees here and not 45 degrees, just because if I would keep an angle of 45 degrees, then the struts might get on the way when you're gliding the foil on the dock. The legs, these feet, are 1 meter 50, so a little bit wider than the platform itself, which is a 120, just to have some extra stability. The outside distance of these 2 big aluminum poles is 60, and the inside distance between these 2 poles is 60. Then these other pieces of aluminum that you can see here are again 20 by 40 in section and are welded to the big poles. And they are, I believe, 50 centimeters distance from each other. And actually, as you can see from this detail, this is welded, pretty nicely welded. I didn't weld this aluminum, I'm not able to. But these are just really screwed in from the top. So there are really very, very few weldings. If my cameraman comes inside, I can show you. Really, the weldings are here in this pole that is kind of hidden from the rung of the ladder. Some weldings down there just to keep this leg into position, and then all these pieces of wood that are actually the rungs of the ladder are just screwed in. So it's pretty simple. And then the other weldings are really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then of course on the other leg as well, we have 2 weldings at the bottom and two weldings at the top, as you can see here. So very few weldings, which means that if you're not a welder, if you're not able to weld aluminum, it's gonna be pretty cost effective to ask someone to do it for you. In terms of cost, since we are here, now I'm gonna mention the prices for the material here in Cyprus, which are absolutely inflated. If you're in mainland Europe or even better in the US, it's probably gonna cost you half the price I paid, but I still wanna mention the price of this nice platform. So I paid roughly 300 euros for the aluminum poles. Then I paid 120 euros for the wood, which is probably insane. And I just want to mention that the platform is pretty heavy. I can't move it on my own. You need at least two people. But once it's in the water, the nice thing is that it floats. So now I just put it up just because I wanted to make the cool video. But I'm just gonna put it back down and then float it into position, which, by the way, is when the water reaches roughly here. So the first or the last, you name it, rung should be barely submerged. So the water level is going to be roughly here, right? So you have a 20-30 centimeter dock and a 80-90 centimeter drop start platform, which I believe is ideal. I was talking about price, and then on top of 120 euros of wood and 200 euros of aluminium, we've also got roughly 50 euros of nuts and bolts and stainless steel stuff. As you could see, it's very sturdy. You can stand really 5 people on it. We just had to cut some 2 pieces of, like a piece of aluminium here, just because we had to make sure that the strut was straight. So as you can see from here, all right, this is the inner part, right? The 60, this is the 60 distance. And of course, we had to add this piece right here to make sure that the strut was straight. And the way we added this piece of aluminum, you can probably see it from inside here, is with some like self drilling screws. So again, it was pretty easy, and this stays in place while these can move. Then another thing that you might wonder is, it's flat, but probably the seabed is not flat. That's right. Now here in Cyprus, at least in this part of the island, the foreshore is pretty flat, so you don't really have to make one side higher than the other to counterbalance the slope. But just in case you have a pretty steep slope, it's actually pretty simple. You can just create other holes here on this leg, so higher holes, and maybe you can move this one a bit higher. You can just figure it out yourself, so that you have the possibility to adjust the height of the high leg. And this is really the best option because it's long-lasting, it's safe, it's easy. Get yourself a nice dock and learn dock starting faster. Apologies for the interruption. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know that usually the quality of my profile is a bit higher than this. But this time I had to record with my iPhone just because I got robbed, right? They took my camera. But don't worry, because a new one is on its way. However, I'm gonna take this opportunity to present you the sponsor of this video, which is myself, my own marketing agency. Now, if you are not an online coach or a gym owner, you can skip the next 20 seconds. But if you are and you want to make a ton of money, well, I do just that, because no, I'm not pumping full time. Like Andy, for example, we started working together really 6 months ago, and he's an online triathlon coach. He was just really scraping by with a few clients. And then after reaching full capacity, after closing high ticket deals, now he has a team of 2 other coaches, and they are almost at full capacity as well. So we just really flipped his business.
The inquiries rolled in straight away in the second month, as you actually said, and I wasn't sort of ready for it. It's just launched me into another stratosphere of my offerings. Has opened my eyes to like the whole world that's out there in terms of finding people that don't know about me. You are the vehicle to get that in front of people, and you do it just brilliantly. You back yourself and then you deliver.
All right, now that was the pitch. In case you're an online coach or a gym owner, you can simply reach out to me from the email which is in the description, gael@ceruslabs.com. That's it. Back to the video. Cheers. Gael, shut up and show us how it's done. We need to build the platform first. And for that, we need 2 bars, aluminum. I suggest anodized aluminum just because it's going to be longer lasting. and there should be 300 centimeter by 4 by 8. So this is a rectangular section. They should be 60 centimeter from each other as outer distance, okay? So the inner distance is gonna be 4, 4, and 52, okay? So 60 centimeter outer distance. And the way you can keep them together is by welding at least 2 of these 120 by 4 by 2 horizontal bars. Again, you don't need to weld them all. You can weld the first one and the last one, and then you can simply screw in the others. Of course, when you screw them in, you need to widen the top of the hole so that the head of the screw gets in and doesn't get on the way when it's going to be time to drill the wooden planks on top. So after you've done that, I mean, you should really weld at least 2 of these, because otherwise the 2 bars are going to kind of move this way. So that's pretty much it. One very important thing is that you need to keep 4 centimeter between the end of the 3 meter bar and the first horizontal bar, because this place is where the leg is going to fit. And in terms of holes, I suggest you do them beforehand, and we need 2 holes each for each bar, so 4 holes in total. The diameter is at 10.5, and the distance is 2 centimeter from the end and in the center of the profile. And that's pretty much it for the platform. Then the second step is to get the wood and put it on top of the platform. So I used 9.5 really wooden planks, marine wooden planks, specifically made for decking. And they are, of course, 3 meters, so the same length of the aluminum bars, and 12 and 2.5, something like that. Now, the number of planks you need is going to depend on the size, on the width of your planks. And I don't suggest you go really thicker than 2.5 centimeter, because then it becomes very, very heavy. It's going to be a bit time demanding to screw the wooden planks on top of the platform, because you need to drill the wood first with a 5mm drill, and then you need to drill the aluminum down underneath with a 3.5, max 4mm drill, and then you need to screw in the screw, which, as you can see down here, should be, of course, stainless steel and roughly 35, 40, 45mm. It's going to be a bit time demanding, as you can expect, but once this is done, you can simply flip the platform upside down, so with the wood facing the floor, and then you can proceed on to the next steps. We need the 2 legs, all right? In my platform, one is higher than the other one, just because I wanted to build this drop start platform to have the possibility to do drop starts on top of normal dock starts. But if you don't want to create the drop start platform, you can simply duplicate the shorter leg, and it's going to be a bit easier to create the platform itself. Everything else is the same. So for the legs, we need, first of all, the feet, I like to call them. So we have 150, and then we have 2 sheets of aluminum that are riveted, screwed to the profile. Doesn't really matter the size, the dimension of these aluminum sheets. Mine are 15 by 20, and then 15 minus 4, which is the profile here. It means that 11 centimeter roughly actually digs into the sand, and it's more than enough. The mistake I did is that these sheets of aluminum are quite thin. I believe it's 2mm or something like that, and if there is a rock, they might bend. So I suggest you do them a bit thicker than mine, so that you don't run into this issue. And once you have 2 of these, then you need to weld on these the vertical bars, right? Which are gonna be the actual legs. 2 of them are 235 centimeter 4x4 profile, so square profile this time, still anodized aluminum. And you need to keep a distance of 60 in between, inner distance of 60 centimeter between the 2 legs, so that the legs can actually fit outside the platform up here. That's why you actually need also these 2 pieces 60 centimeter so that you can weld down here and you can weld up here as well, so that the leg actually stays in place. The distance between this horizontal strut, let's call it, and the top is not that important in the long leg. For example, I kept 15 or 20, I don't remember, centimeter from the top, and this kind of acts as a rung to get on the Dockstart platform. The only thing is that you shouldn't do this too low, because otherwise it gets on the way when it's going to be time to screw the to just assemble the platform and the leg together. On the other hand, for the shorter leg, I suggest you place this horizontal bar 28 centimeters from the top, so that it's going to be hidden by the last rung of the ladder, which is going to be made of wood, as you could see in the video. Then we need to make holes, of course, on these legs as well, so that we can actually assemble all this thing together. And for the short leg, it's pretty straightforward. The holes are going to be the same size as the holes that we did, that we drilled in the platform structure, in the frame. So 10.5, and they're going to be 4 centimeters from the top, and of course in the center of the profile. The holes are actually going to be at 176 centimeters from the bottom and 4 centimeters from the top. For the longer leg, for the higher leg, the taller leg, it depends on your seabed. If you have a steep seabed, then you kind of want to consider making the holes not 176 from the bottom, but a little bit higher. Now in my case, my seabed is pretty much flat. So I just drilled the holes at the same height in the short leg and in the long leg. You might also want to consider making multiple holes for different types of seabed, but then it becomes complicated, because then you have to drill other holes even for the struts, because of course if you change the position of the platform on the leg, you also need to change the position of the strut on the leg and on the platform as well, I think. So it just becomes too complicated. I don't suggest you do that. So you might want to take some measurements in the water to see pretty much roughly how the seabed is, so that you can act accordingly. Again, you could simply measure the depth in one point, and then 3 meters later you can take the same depth, and then the difference, which is probably going to be, I don't know, let's call it 30 centimeters. Well, if you have a 30 centimeter difference over 3 meters, then you want to consider making these holes 30 centimeters higher than these holes. So instead of 176 plus these 4, so 180 is going to be 180 plus 30, so 210, which means that these 235 are not enough anymore to be able to create a decent Dockstart platform, because this leg should actually always be roughly 50 centimeters more than the short leg, to have a nice difference between the platform, the Dockstart platform, and the Dockstart platform. Because the ideal Dockstart is 20, 25, 30 centimeters above the water, and the ideal Dockstart platform is anything between 70 to 100 centimeters above the surface. So it goes without saying that the Dockstart platform should be 50 to 60, 70 centimeters higher than the actual Dockstart platform. Now, after that, we just need to assemble things together. And the way you do that, it's very simple and straightforward. We have the holes. We have the same distance here and the same distance here. So we just put them together, and then you use some M10 by 100 millimeter stainless steel bolts and nuts, and you just assemble it together. Like I said, in these moments, the platform is going to be upside down, so the legs are going to be pointing the sky. Now, you don't necessarily have to be able to weld to create these legs, because you can also use this kind of technique where you use a hell of a lot of nuts and bolts and some plates to keep a 90-degree angle between the foot and the leg. But it's a bit more complicated, so I suggest it's just easier if you can get someone to weld aluminum for you. Now, like I mentioned in the video, there is a very important thing to do, which is this. So the strut is going to be from the outside of the leg to the horizontal bars of the platform, the 3-meter bars. And of course, there's going to be a 4 centimeter difference. So we need to add this little 30 centimeter piece of aluminum, 4x4, to be able to assemble the strut in line with the leg. And I suggest you keep a 68 centimeter roughly distance from the end of the 3-meter bar until the beginning of the 30 centimeter aluminum square that you're gonna drill here. And you're gonna use some self-drilling screws to make sure that this stays nice and tight against the 3-meter bar. You're gonna drill this through, and then only this, and then you're gonna let the screws drill itself in the 3-meter bar. And the struts are 100 centimeter, 4x2, so the same profile as these 7 pieces. Of course, you can cut the angles at the end, whatever, and I kept an angle of 60 and 30 degrees so that they don't get on the way when you dock start. Which means that the holes for the struts on the legs should be roughly 45 centimeter further down compared to the holes that you're gonna drill for the platform. So in this case, 4 centimeter from the top and then 45 centimeter more, and then you're gonna find the other holes for the struts. I mentioned the screws earlier on. We need 4 M10 100 millimeter to combine to just assemble the platform together with the legs, and then we need another 4 M8 by 80 millimeter to attach the struts to the legs, and then we need another 4 M8 by 120 millimeter screws to be able to attach the strut to the platform, because it's going to be 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2, so 120. Again, you can see it better in the video, so you can go back and watch it again to understand what we mean by that. And then I suggest, of course, self-locking nuts and some plastic washers. Try not to use galvanized iron because it's kind of crap, so try and get stainless steel hardware. And then we need the ladder. And the ladder, I just use wood which is called Swedish wood or something. So it's like 9 by 2 centimeter, roughly 18 inches. So it's not really that, but you got the point. It doesn't really matter as long as it's sturdy. And I just simply drilled it against the leg here, and the rungs of the ladder are 30 centimeter from each other. Not from wood to wood, but from middle of the wood to middle of the wood, because it's 180 divided by 6 is 30. So we need 5 rungs, because the 6th rung is actually the platform itself. So the first rung is going to be at 30, then 60, 90, and so on and so forth. Again, I'm talking about the middle of the wood. So if the wood is like, I don't know, 8, then you're going to take the center of the wood plank of the rung, and then you're going to calculate where to put the others. The last thing that we have to mention is the drop start. So if you want to create this drop start platform, then you need 2 15 centimeter by 4x2, so same profile as this. And you're just gonna either weld them on top of the high legs. Either you can use, like I did, an L bracket just to keep them together. You can use some rivets to hold everything in place. And anyways, the struts are gonna do the heavy job, the heavy lifting. And the struts are gonna be, if the platform is 50 centimeter, the struts are gonna be anything between 60 to 70 centimeter. And again, 4x2, you can use the same profile. And they're gonna be outside, as you can see in the video. And then in terms of wooden planks for the drop start platform, 4 are enough if they are of this size. That's it. That's pretty much what you need and how to create it. In case you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section and I will make sure to reply as soon as possible. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe.